And your name is?
Luke Johnson.
Your occupation?
Shredded by Science boss.
Specialist subject?
Answering Instagram questions. Tom, first question.
From Jack Whitehead, 2017. I'm sure you've covered this, but your thoughts on maintaining lean mass or creating new muscle tissue while in a calorific deficit through either higher protein or nutrition timing / carb backloading methods, etc. tar.
Thank you, Jack Whitehall, the comedian, for getting involved in Instagram, first and foremost. And to answer your question, it's always going to be, it depends. But it depends on your training age, it depends on your current training, it depends on your current body composition. So there's going to be multiple factors that are going to play a role in whether you can maintain that lean body mass or either gain some lean body mass. So there's plenty of scientific studies out there in trained individuals, as in like athletes, where they have put on some lean body mass. Remember, when we look at lean body mass, it's everything apart from fat and bone mass, so it could be water content as well. So in short, if you have a smaller deficit, so you're not being that aggressive with it, and you're looking at a small weight loss per week in regards to body weight, then you may be able to maintain lean body mass and maybe even put on a tiny bit. But again, these are factors that we cannot give an accurate prediction on. So it's just focusing on the process, making sure you are getting, you are hitting your protein intake, you are not having a massive caloric deficit, you are still looking at progressive overload and volume over time to either stay where it is or increase it slightly. But again, everyone is different. Some people may put on some lean body mass in a small caloric deficit, and some may actually lose a significant amount. And again, that's going to be down to the individual. So I can't give you a specific answer. What I can say is do the things that you're supposed to do, and what will happen will happen. Tom, second question.
By Live Motion by DB. If I need, using a simple example, 2,000 kilocalories to maintain the weight I'm at, and day 1 I eat 1,500 kilocalories, day 2 I eat 2,500, day 3 1,500, and so on, will my weight stay the same? To what extent could the theory be applied, and could it be applied to weight gain or weight loss? From Dan.
It seems like a lot of faffing around to me. What you'll tend to get back in the days, you don't really see it as much now, is these high, medium, low days. And there's no thought out process of why that is. There's no actual tailoring it to the individual. So in an ideal world, or in a world where everything was controlled over a long period of time in your weekly average or monthly average, it probably wouldn't have a significant difference. However, messing around with your macros, going from this day to that day to that day, there's going to be a change in your body weight purely down to a number of factors, as in the actual amount of food you have consumed the previous day before, sodium intake, whether it was hot that day, whether you've done cardio. There's so many multiple factors when it comes to your daily weight and the average over time. So my opinion would be, unless there's a reason why you're going for a high, medium, low day based on your personal circumstances, I wouldn't just do it just for the sake of it because you saw it in a magazine that some bodybuilder done and swears by it. At the end of the day, whether it's weight loss or muscle gain, more so probably this is used for weight loss. It's another tool like intermittent fasting, carb backloading, and all these other things you want to put a name on, that is going to end up making you being in a caloric deficit. So if it helps you get in a caloric deficit, then do it. If it's too much faffing around, which it is to me personally, to most people I would say, then don't just do it for the sake of it. Next question, please, Tom.
By Can't Stop Rush. If hypertrophy is the goal, how do you find the ideal rep range for an exercise?
Thank you. So there's a ton of research coming out now, or has been out for a while now, which has shown that when total volume is equated for, that it doesn't really matter if you are doing 5 reps or 10 reps. It just means that if you're doing 5 rep sets, you're going to have to take into account that you may be training a lot longer because you're going to have a longer rest period, etc. So don't ever say etc, because that sounds terrible on a Q&A. So when it comes down to optimal hypertrophy, look at maybe a DUP style where you can incorporate some higher rep work and some lower rep work, and taking into account the principle of specificity and set it right. If you want to get stronger and you enjoy lifting heavier stuff and having longer rest periods, then do so. It just means that you'll probably be in the gym longer to get that total equated volume. So for me, and say for like a period of time, if you've got 30 minutes or 40 minutes to train, you're better off sticking in the 8 to 12 rep range, the typical hypertrophy rep range, because you can equate more volume over that period of time. So there isn't one better than the other. However, there is one which you can equate more volume in a set period of time. And I prefer 8 to 12 rep range myself. So if I was just on a strength routine, I probably wouldn't enjoy it. And therefore, the total volume and my willingness to train would be a lot less in that example. Next question, please, Tom.
By PB and pull-ups, is there a difference in how your body processes carbs from healthy foods versus unhealthy foods, and also reverse dieting / cheat day thoughts?
Okay, with the reverse dieting and stuff like that, we're going to actually do a video on that. Eric Helm's done a review on mass, which looks at reverse dieting and what happens the week after and sort of 4 to 6 weeks after. So that video is coming up. In regards to labeling foods as good or bad, or carbs as good or bad, it's a terrible idea, because foods shouldn't be seen or as good or bad or clean or dirty. They are foods. If you were really hungry and you had a salad, or you had some chocolate or some sweets, one might give you 500 calories, one might only give you 50 calories. If I was really stranded and I needed some food, I know I wouldn't go for the clean option, I'd go for the one which gives me more calories. The difference is that with foods that are, let's rather than say good foods and bad foods, let's look at calorie dense foods and maybe volume dense foods. And what I mean with that is that with these bad calories or calorie dense foods, you can quite easily overeat them, because in regards to the size of them, they're small, they're punchy, and they're full of calories. They also have things which are probably like less fiber intake. They have less other macronutrient build-up in regards to proteins and fat. But when it comes down to it, calories matter. Like, anyone who says they do not is an idiot, an uneducated idiot, an incompetent twat, and you shouldn't listen to them. The thing is, when you're dieting, it's a lot easier to diet on clean foods because they are less calorie dense, so therefore the volume is more. So for example, now that I'm 14 weeks and 5 days out on time of recording this, and hunger is becoming a little bit more of an issue, I'm making small tweaks to my diet or nutrition and having more volume dense foods in my diet, having more salads, because they make me feel fuller for longer, so I'm actually satisfying my hunger. With the calorie dense foods or the bad foods, again, they're just a lot easier to overeat. Therefore, most people, when they don't actually calculate or track all their calories, will then see these foods as bad because they are just, without knowing, overeating on calories. Next question, please, Tom.
From Flips the Ticks, best way to transition from cutting to a lean mass bulk?
I would say to spend 1 to 2 weeks around maintenance, because obviously if you've been dieting for a longer period of time and you've lost a substantial amount of body weight, your resting metabolic rate, your total daily energy expenditure is going to be different. So basically your maintenance calories. So by having 1 to 2 weeks at maintenance, it's getting to know what is your current maintenance level in regards to calories, and taking that information to then say, right, if I want to go on a lean bulk, I want to increase my calories by 5% per day, or whatever it is you're going to be doing, and then just basically go back into that. There shouldn't be many changes apart from the training wise. You may look at now increasing volume a little bit, but not going stupid levels, just because you've giving yourself an extra 400 calories a day doesn't mean you can now withstand a lot more volume. So gradually looking at changing your training, increasing that volume over time, increasing those calories over time, and setting yourself a percentage of weight gain per month, not per week, based on your training age, whether that's 0.5% per month because you've been lifting all of the weights for decades, or whether you're a newbie-ish still, and that might be more around the 1.5 to 2% body weight gain per month. Have a target in place, make sure you're giving yourself sufficient nutrition in regards to calories, and you are in the gym, and you'll probably notice that with the additional calories in the gym, you're going to feel a little bit better than when you were in a deficit, especially if you was in a moderate deficit. But spend 1 to 2 weeks finding out what your maintenance is now, and then start adding calories, and then making sure that your training again is looking at increasing volume over time to then go into this lean bulking phase. Next question, please, Tom.
From Emily, thoughts on mini cuts and how our bodies react to these. Are they beneficial or pointless excuses to want to look shredded for a short period of time?
I think everyone has different reasons. Even as a personal trainer, your clients will come to you and they will have specific goals in mind. We need to take that on board, but we also need to be realistic with them and lay everything out on the table and explain to them some of the pros and cons of a mini cut or going on a dirty bulk or whatever it is. But the client is obviously there, and it's down to us as fitness professionals to be able to give them sound advice, and from our point of view, so they know all the pros and cons before making that decision. So for example, you see quite a lot of these fitness models now with their abs, and you hear the thing is like, abs on a skinny guy doesn't count. And what I find with the youth of today, because I can say that because I am now 31, is that they always want to put on muscle, but then they want to cut at the same time. Or as a female, was Emily, yeah? So Emily, it could be that you're in a situation now where you want to cut, but then you also want to get a better shape and put on a little bit of muscle. And what tends to happen is, my advice would be, if you are young, make the most of this. Make the most of being optimal for everything, in hormonally, in regards to life stresses, in regards to your current lifestyle. Make the most of it when you're young. And by doing these mini dirty bulks and cutting all the time, you're sort of going 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Think of it as more of a longer term picture rather than just a 8-week period or even a yearly period. Think of it over a longer period of time, and take into account that every time you cut and you're youthful and you want to actually put on some mass, you're not in an environment to grow. It's like a plant. You're not giving it the right nutrition. You're not giving it water. You're not giving it a chance to grow, because you're always restricting the whole time. So it does come down to personal preference. And I think if everyone started looking at things over a longer period of time, it would make better decisions in the long run, and you're not going back and forward all the time. So hopefully that answers that. If it doesn't, comment below and I'll carry on, because I need a bit more context. Tom, next question, please.
From Sam, when returning to training after around 18 months due to illness and in the process losing around 50 pounds and all gains, should you start training again utilising novice principles, recommendations, and also what rate of weight gain would you recommend? Cheers.
Thank you. Sorry that you had so much time off lifting, and hopefully with that massive weight drop, hopefully everything is okay on that front. Like anything, always start off slower. Like always, it's a hard one. Even from my own prep thing, I didn't lose 50 pounds when I took training time off. I probably put on 50 pounds. So I was in a different situation as yourself. But yeah, it's a hard one, because you've got the mental fight with knowing that where you were at, and that you could lift 130 kg for 2 reps on the bench, because who squats? it is sort of both a physical challenge, obviously coming back round to training again, and also the mental side of things of knowing that you are not what you were before. So very easily get back into training. If you had 18 months off with 0 training, don't start on a 4-day-a-week training. Maybe start on 2 days. Whole body. I'd probably say getting back into it, going to like a whole body routine, just because again, lifting is still a skill. So in regards to skill acquisition and getting back into it, by doing whole body sessions and doing your lifts more regularly, again, you're going to get back into it a lot quicker rather than going into a split where you're training individual body parts and doing a load of sessions. So gradually bring that back in. In regards to weight gain, again, it's going to depend on what you were before, how advanced were you as a lifter, how much muscle maturity did you have. The good thing is there is research out there which shows obviously detraining. You'll see some people do this. They purposely get out of condition to then start training again to sell something because they can make really good quick results. So to take into account that when you were trained, that the results will come back quicker. So enjoy the first few months because it will feel like you're a newbie again. I know I had that with my weights going up every single week, and then all of a sudden it's like you have to be a little bit more clever with your approach to progressive overload. So make the most of it. In regards to your weight gain, depending on your current body fat percentage and other factors like that, look at maybe being a little bit more aggressive with it. Maybe you can say, right, I'm gonna look at maybe 1 to 2% body weight per month increase. And then as you start going in, a few months in, that'll start gradually dropping down. And use photos, how you look in the mirror, how your clothes feel, measurements to make that decision on whether you're putting on excessive fat amount or you are actually making the most of these newbie gains that you're getting. So all the best, hope everything is well health-wise. Tom, next question please.
From Memma Ramsey Young, what are these strategies you can apply when you plateau, and what is the best bet on that does go lower calorie beat option? Really got to start wording these questions better. What are these strategies you can apply when you plateau, and what is the best bet on that does go lower calorie beat option? Just answer what.
Well, let's say what happens if someone plateaus. Based on your second part of the question, which we can't quite understand. So again, if you're watching this, comment below, just clarify that, but I will go with strategies when you plateau. It all happens before. It all happens when you make that decision to diet, and I don't know how long the diet is, how much weight loss you're looking for, but I'm all for the minimal effective dose to give you the maximum results. And what I mean by that is, say you are starting off and you've got a substantial amount of weight to lose, look at not cutting calories really quick at the start and not chucking a ton of cardio at the start and not having 6 days lifting at the start. So it's all about your tool belt and your arsenal. Even though I'm a Chelsea fan, so your Chelsea belt. You don't want to make sure you're using all of the tools from the off. What I want you to use the tools that are needed to start that initial phase. Once you've started that initial phase and you do hit a plateau, and the plateau is a good thing. A plateau looks like you have adapted, well done. You've lost X amount of weight and you are now maintaining that weight. This is a good thing. I think most people look at this as a bad thing. This is what I've learned from Alan Aragon, is look at plateaus as just milestones that you've achieved based on the stimulus and environment you've given your body for that 6 weeks, for that 4 months, or however long it is before you plateau. When you do plateau, because you haven't thrown every single tool at your tool belt, you can then say, okay, now I've plateaued, I'm not gonna cut calories, I'm gonna introduce some cardiovascular exercise. You do that and hopefully the plateau goes, it breaks it, and you start making progress again. But then guess what? You're gonna hit a plateau again. So when you get to that stage, it might be, okay, now I'm gonna cut calories because I wasn't over aggressive at the start, I still have room to cut calories here. Then it could be, okay, that worked, and then now I'm going to actually hit a plateau again, and now I'm going to either have to do more cardio, or not even do more cardio as in going into the gym, but for myself, my cardio is I just walk home. So it could be small little tweaks that you can do to make sure that you're calorie expenditure on a day-by-day basis goes up. And again, you've got increased calorie expenditure or decreased calorie intake, and using them as going back and forward is a good strategy to get you there. And then other things is looking at diet breaks. I know after my diet break in the States, where I didn't even put weight on, the following week my weight dropped again. So using that not only from a physiological standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint to keep you back on track to achieving that longer term goal. Yeah, that was quite good, that one, Tom.
From Simon, if you know that you have a very adaptive metabolism when cutting, would it be beneficial to do a more aggressive deficit on, for example, 3 days followed by 3 days on maintenance calories and repeat?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your question. I've coached hundreds of people online now, and I call these people NEAT freaks. So basically, when you cut calories, their NEAT levels are like, whoa. And NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's the things like fidgeting, moving around. And the thing is, your body, what we've got to remember is your body is a very clever machine. If you restrict it of stuff, it will adapt. It's always adapting. So the thing is with research, stuff like that, is when you, for this example as well, is where, so one guy I coached, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying his name, Dom, for a good few years. The more I coached him, and because we actually track everything, I can pull up records from 2 years ago and say exactly what his macros were, what his body weight was, and I can go back and forward. So I've got that information. So I think it's important you collect that data rather than just making assumptions, because the data doesn't lie. The data doesn't have emotion. The data is the data. So take that into account. And with Dom, what we had was, when we gave him more calories from going from a cut to a bulk, after a while of coaching him, we'd done this 2 or 3 times during that period. When we did transition into a bulk or a chronic surplus, for example, I had to, where before you might say, oh, okay, I'm only going to give you 250 calories or 300 calories, I had to pump him with 600 calories or 700 calories. And again, it's looking at that question we had earlier, what do you do from a deficit to now a lean bulk, is using that the first 2 weeks to bump it up to try and get his maintenance level. And if his body weight's not going up, or he's actually dropping a little bit, because that sometimes happens because of their NEAT, because of things like water retention, and they're losing a bit of water weight because you're going to more carbs. There's multiple factors to take into account. So in regards to a diet in that sense, is he looking at a bulk or is he looking at a cut still, Tom, with 3 days on, 3 days off? Cutting. Okay, so I've done, check out like Lyle McDonald's Ultimate Diet 2, and with some of my younger online client guys, we done 4 days in a deficit, 3 days in a small, like it wasn't even a surplus, it was more at maintenance, and they actually got some really good results. Visually, you could see that there was some body recomposition going on at that stage. So yeah, you can, again, if you're looking to lose weight, you could go 4 days like a more vigorous deficit and 3 days at maintenance. Like I think there is no hard rules in this. There's just principles, and the way you do it is down to you. So again, it can work, and I've used it with clients before. So it could be you do 4 days low, 3 days higher. Or you could do 5 days low, and those 2 days would be higher than it would be if you had 3 days. But the overall arching theme is you need to be in an overall caloric deficit when you're wanting to lose weight. And if you want to actually put on weight, you need to be in the majority of time in an overall calorie surplus. Hopefully that answered your question. Next question, please, Tom.
From Marabrew, this one is nutrition related. Is it good if I keep my carbs low during the day and then eat them at dinner? Or is it better to eat low carbs at night time? Does it have a different effect on my body? Will I gain weight because of it?
So if you, when it comes to carbs before 6 p.m, or we've heard it everywhere. Like carbs are bad for breakfast. We've all heard that. Yeah, if you have carbs for breakfast, you're going to go into a carb coma and you're going to be basically stuffed for the rest of the day. But then we've also heard it that if you have carbs after 6 p.m, 7 p.m, 8 p.m, or whatever p.m. you want to give, that is also bad for you because you're going to store it as fat. Because once you have them carbs, because you're inactive or less active during the evening, you're going to store them as fat. This is all nonsense. So when it comes down to it, it's preference. I personally prefer to have more carbs, more calories overall in the evening. And what it comes down to is we shouldn't look at things in a 24-hour sort of window. It's like the whole post-workout, when it's like there's a post-workout window. If you don't have your protein, then you basically just lost all muscle and you will just be a skinny guy for the rest of your life, or skinny girl. It's the same thing with carbs before and after. What it comes down to is, let's look at things on a weekly picture, because I know we can't look at things more than a week because that's ludicrous and we already look at things on a daily basis. It really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things in regards to weight loss. However, when it comes down to personal preference, it could be that you train first thing in the morning. So by having carbs in the evening, that may be of a benefit, because when you wake up, you don't want to stuff your face because you just don't want to have a ton of food before you go and lift or go and do whatever exercise you're going to do. Or it could be that you are going to train later on or midday, and having more carbs at breakfast may mean that you perform better in the gym, or it may mean that you don't. So it all comes down to testing things and seeing what works best for you. But just try not to look at things as in, this is a bad time to, don't look at things as good food, bad food, and don't look at things as a good time and a bad time to eat stuff. Just look at it as an overall picture, and I think the industry would be a better place when we don't have these dogma of don't eat this here and don't eat this then. Because what happens when you change time zones, or the clocks go forward an hour, or they go back an hour? It's just really, you're focusing on the smallest of the small and you're missing the big picture. Next question, please, Dom.
From Charlie Gilbert, I need ideas for a new whey with great taste, preferably cheaper, however. Want to find something more palatable than my current MyProtein Impact whey.
I feel you on the Impact whey. It doesn't do well in proteins. As a sponsored athlete now with bulk powders, obviously I'm not sponsored, that's a joke. However, bulk powders did comment on one of my YouTube videos and I like that. So well done, bulk powders. But obviously taking into account bulk powders is a similar price to MyProtein. I feel it tastes better than MyProtein. Try bulk powders. Give it a go. If you don't like it, you ain't wasted much money. Or give it to someone as a prize. If you've got your own business, it's a competition, tax deductible. Like the SBS Academy is. Boom, right hook, see that? Next question, please, Tom.
From Lamis, probably has been covered before, but what is the ideal volume per muscle group per week? Many websites have many different recommendations, so a bit lost. Thank you.
Okay, there's some good papers. We'll probably put them in the description by like Eric Helms, Alan Aragon, looking at this. In short, hitting a body part twice a week minimum, 2 to 3 times per week. How much volume, again, is going to come down to that person. If you barely lift, then it might be 40 reps per week, or you could break it down into, Wormborn, looked at like twice per week, 40 to 70 reps per week. But again, with new stuff coming out, if you were going to do lower reps but higher weight, as long as total volume's equated for. So one of the things what I want you to do, what's the name again? Charlie? Lamis. Don't know why I called you Charlie. Lamis. Track your, I think most people, if you're not actually tracking your workouts and the weights you lift, it is impossible to know exactly what you lifted the week before or the week before that. It is like, unless you have special talents, it's not going to work. So what I would say to do is, rather than give you you need to hit this or that, you could say most of the stuff is like 6 to 12 sets per body part per week, 40 to 70 reps per week, 2 times per week minimum. They're good guidelines, but they are just guidelines. Like it would be if someone wanted to work out what is my maintenance, you can use different formulas. So what I want you to do, Lamis, is to look at your current training and calculate how many reps you're hitting per body part, how many sets you're doing, and your actual total volume. And then what I want you to do is to gradually increase it on more of a, looking at a monthly basis rather than a sort of session basis, weekly basis. If you increase the volume in a session, it's going to therefore increase it in a week and therefore increase it in a month. And then what I want you to do is to take into account that the more volume you put, the more fatigue you're going to create. So don't do too much. Look at small, frequent doses over a period of time, and then just keep adding to your current volume, because that's what matters, is how much volume you're currently doing and how much volume you can tolerate before you make that decision. But a good rule of thumb, hit body parts twice a week, 6 to 12 sets, 40 to 70 reps is a good ballpark figure. But you may be able to tolerate more volume because you've been training for more, therefore you might need to hit 90 reps or 14 sets per week. And then again, it could be there's certain body parts that you want to bring up, and there's other body parts that are quite well developed, and those body parts you might reduce the volume, and the ones you want to improve, you might increase the volume on those specific body parts. Next question, please, Tom.
From Nick, I train fasted in the morning and continue the fast for around 6 hours after. However, I have zero energy. Anything I can take that won't leave me tired but won't break the fast?
Caffeine. And my thing is, why are you fasting? Like, if you're feeling crap, why do it? Again, fasting is a tool. It's not, the tool will create a caloric deficit. But if it means you're feeling like crap, how about you just eat some food or drink something with calories in? Like, unless there isn't, when it comes to fasted cardio or fasting this, fasting that, it all comes down to overall calories. If intermittent fasting means that you can sustain a caloric deficit and lose, then do it. But if you're feeling crap, why do it? It's like, if you're following my prep series, you're seeing, like, even last night I had 4 KFC wings. I had porridge in the pot that you put hot water in, but I'm still losing weight. I've still lost 14 kg. There is no brownie points for being ultra restrictive and suffering to get to an end result. I think that's even more stupidity, that you're putting yourself under this stress that you don't need to get to a goal. Like, it's not how hard you work, it's you have to work hard and smart. There's no point working hard for the sake of it, and just like do stuff that you need to, but don't make it harder than you actually need to do. You need to be in a caloric deficit, and if it means you're feeling crap because you think that the only way to lose weight is fasting for 6 hours after a workout, then it's like you stepping on stage with me stepping on stage, and we both are twins and we look identical, and we both get joint first. I win that because for my 9 months, it wasn't a stress. But for your 9 months, it was a pain in the ass. Next question, please, Tom.
From the main man himself, Tank. When reverse dieting, what would be a good rate to increase calories? Would it be best for a slightly higher jump, 20 to 25 carbs once a week, or lower increase, so 10 carbs or 5 fats, for example, once every 3 to 4 days?
Okay, so again, we're going to answer this in more depth with the reverse dieting videos specific, but in short, Tank, you're in the academy. My advice would be what Eric Helm's advice would be. So in short, get to maintenance as quick as possible, like straight after, and try not to, like, changing your calories every 3 to 5 days is like too much. It's like, what is the point? Add the calories up, track your body weight, see how it's going. If it's going up too quick, drop calories a little bit. But again, when you've been dieting for a long period of time, and I know you dieted down for a competition, you lost a ton of weight, and you did have some issues physiologically afterwards, it would be get back healthy as quick as possible. And a little snippet is with the reverse dieting study, which Helms reviewed in mass and what I'm going to do a video on. the first week, all of the gains they got, you can put a Z on that if that's your type of thing that you do, was lean body mass. But then also those which put on excessive amounts of fat, their testosterone levels actually didn't increase as fast as those which weren't as aggressive of getting a ton of calories in. So that's an interesting finding that obviously we need to look at again in other research. But yeah, don't try and just add an extra 5 grams per day, per week. Get them back to maintenance as soon as possible, their current maintenance, not what it was before they started dieting, and then look at gradually increasing that and having that set amount of weight you want to increase per month, and making sure that the calorie intake is in sync with that rate of weight gain. Next question, please, Tom.
From Jack, how often should I use the burnout technique, or is it down to recovery time? If I'm training chest on Mondays and Fridays, can I afford to burn out on a Monday and recover in time for Friday?
Okay, I've not heard of this burnout method as a strategy as such, but when it comes to overall intake, what am I talking about? Overall volume, like that's very, for example, let's say you're doing your session. If you annihilate your chest on that Monday session, and then you've got shoulders the next day because that's the way you programmed it for whatever reason, or triceps or arms, again, it's going back to dieting hard or making it ultra thing. Again, it's looking, I don't think it's optimal, because if you beast something and you're sore for days, but for being sore for days, it's going to have a negative effect on your other sessions, or even just beasting your session at the start. So for example, it could be that you're doing a ton of volume in those individual sessions rather than spreading it out over 3 days or 4 days. The good thing is you've given an example of Monday to Friday. What most people do with a burnout method, or basically annihilating a body part, is they do it once per week. So you are hitting it twice a week, which is good. So you might not be truly smashing it to bits, but it all comes down to overall volume again. And what you'll tend to see is if you go to ultimate failure in, say, your first exercise on Monday on your chest, and it means you've gone 10 reps at an RPE of 10, which is rate perceivable exertion on the first set. The second set, because you went to failure, might mean you only got 8 reps. And then on the third set, because you went to failure again on the second set, you might have then only achieved 7 reps or 6 reps on that third set. And what that means is, because you went beast mode on going all out, I can't lift a single rep more, it has a negative effect on your overall volume for that body part. So I think people need to be a little bit more smarter when it comes to programming, and know when to go to failure and when not to. So for example, it could be, say, on an isolation exercise on a body part like shoulders, they can recover a lot quicker than a big compound lift, both from a physiological standpoint and even mentally, to overcoming that, going full beast mode all the time. So don't look at, I don't think we should be looking at, what method did he say it was? Burnout. I don't like anything with names like that is like terrible for me. Like it is what it is. Just look at your training as an overall thing, and know that if you are going to burnout in anything is not a good thing, because it means there's going to be a negative effect on other things, whether it's during that session, the days after that session as well. So yeah, just don't use burnout. Next question, please, Tom.
From Fabian, what's your take on maximising MPS? I use the guidelines from Joseph Agu. I'm really talking about a general maximal MPS. So based on research, I'd say 5 to 7 mils, and instead of 30 grams per mil to be the max, it would be 40 grams. Do you agree?
I think there's enough research out there now to show as you get older. There's that famous study where they had 25 grams of whey and then 40 grams of whey, and then for the older individuals, 25 grams of whey wasn't enough to maximise muscle protein synthesis, but 40 grams was. So obviously I'm a good friend of Joe's, so I know he's highly respectable in the industry, so is pretty much what Joe would say is, again, you see, even like faffing around having 5 to 7 meals a day, like cover. But then what you've got to take into account is multiple factors again. Are they having sufficient protein? If someone's coming to you 1 gram per kilogram of protein per body weight, of your body weight per day, then again, it's looking at making sure the big rocks are in place first before we look at, do I need to have 40 grams of protein every single meal minimum? I don't, but does it hurt if I do? No. So I would, even like the study Helms reviewed with 28 grams of protein pre and 28 grams of protein post, in a caloric deficit in trained individuals, and I've done a video on that, so Tom, let's link that up with one of them things on that video. So it's taking into account multiple factors. Are they in a deficit? Are they at maintenance? Are they in a surplus? What is their overall protein intake? But again, I would agree with Joe, is when someone gets older, or the more trained, there's even research, the more trained you are, that maybe your maximal muscle protein synthesis, and then it drops off at a quicker rate the more trained you are. So yeah, I don't see it being a problem of looking at, I'm going to try and get 40 grams in to cover all bases, but it comes down to overall calories first, overall protein intake second, and then timing would then have the sort of third most important level of those things. And yeah, it just covers bases. And over a bigger picture, again, when we look at studies, they're a set period of time, and they're not you. There's plenty of standard deviation between individuals, where you'll see studies where some were like high responders, some were non-responders, and some were in between. We don't know what we are as an individual unless we took part in a scientific study. But yeah, you could say as I get older, as I get more trained, I'm going to look at less meals with lower protein intake, and less meals with higher protein intake, rather than faffing around with 6 to 7 meals at 25 grams of protein per meal. So that was a little bit around the bush. But next question, please, Tom.
From Martin, I bought a protein that's composed of soy protein isolate and whey protein isolate. The taste and texture is, well, different than regular whey protein concentrates or isolates. Any ideas how to make it better? I don't want to throw it away.
You could sell it to someone. You could disguise it like you would giving medicine or tablets to a pet, and put it in other foods which have quite strong flavours to disguise that taste. But I think, what's his name, Tom?
His name is Martin Polak.
Martin Polak. Learn from your mistakes. Do not ever buy this protein again. This is why probably there's samples. But yeah, my first thing would be, can I sell it and make a bit of bunts? That is money if you don't understand these terminologies. And if you can't, look at putting it in other foods. If you can put it in some Greek yogurt with a little bit of that powder with some berries, that might make it edible. Apart from that, cut your losses. Get something which isn't made up of disgusting protein. Next question, please, Tom.
From Findlay Fitness, what would you say is the best way to educate clients who need a reverse diet that is okay to eat more, that they will in fact lose weight? I struggle trying to get them to believe me.
Okay. Now, when we reverse diet, not people are going to lose weight, maybe at a very initial phase, but we're looking at increasing calories, which therefore would increase weight. So the reason why you might increase this is the thing, it's like, when you increase calories, their NEAT might increase. It's highly probable. Like everyone is different as well. Do you know what I mean? So some clients you will find, like the client I mentioned before, Dom, called him a NEAT freak. When I gave him more calories, he just ate them up, because he just subconsciously become more active because of those calories. His energy levels up, he's giving him more energy, therefore he feels better, he's moving around more, he's fidgeting a little bit more. So in regards to reverse dieting, there's other stuff. When you've been in a deficit for so long, your cortisol levels are high. aldosterone, or I can't remember what it is, but basically what that means is it can mean you hold on to more water weight. So I know when I prepped Tom for his show, on peak week, I was upping his carbs and his weight was dropping. And that could have been multiple factors. Could have even been like bowel movements as well. You're eating more, therefore there's more food in your body. Your bowel movements might increase. You're giving your body an environment, there's less stress because you're not restricting your body from calories, therefore water weight might drop a little bit. But then in the longer term, reverse dieting, they're going to put on weight. And when it comes to with clients and they've lost weight, especially if they've had like previous experience of being overweight and they've lost weight, and now you're saying, actually, now we're going to increase the calories, it is a communication thing and it is a psychological thing they need to you need to work with them to overcome. And maybe being less, maybe you would say, I would normally increase calories by 300. It might be you speak to them and you might meet them in the middle and you do it by 150 or then 200. So communication is key, making sure that you've got that client buy-in, and then actually explaining to them the multiple factors of why it's important we do this and what may happen. So they may lose weight starting off, they may not. But again, we're only looking at a very small amount of weight gain, and you can't get fat overnight like you can't get shredded overnight. So having that conversation with them, I think, is important, and taking it based on an individual client. And maybe you want to go here, but they want to go here, but you end up meeting in the middle. I think that's a good compromise. And again, they're hiring you for your expertise, so they should take that on board. Next question, please, Tom.
From Brad. Recently bulked up 10 kilo, dieted down and lost 10 kilo. I've since heard I need to hold for a period before dieting down. Is this true? If so, how long would you hold for?
I don't know how long it took you to lose the 10 or gain the 10. So it goes back to, if you've, like 10 kilograms is a lot of weight, even if you're a ranked newbie. So you putting on 10 kg, let's say you put that on over 3 years, I'll be like, fair enough, or 2 years. So because I don't have that context, it's hard to give you an exact answer for that. So let's say it is a quite aggressive 10 kg increase, and then you was quite aggressive with your 10 kg loss. Now, we don't know how much mass you've put on from that. A good indicator, especially with competitors, is because they've been doing it for a longer period of time, they know their stage weight from 3 years ago, and when they jump on their stage again, say 5 years down the line, and their new stage weight is 3 kg heavier, but they even look leaner than they did when they first competed, then you can roughly say, actually, I've put on this much mass. But again, even if you look at DEXA scan or calipers and stuff like that, it's always hard to tell. In regards to holding, I don't know why you would need to hold if you wanted to go back into a surplus. Maybe you should use that information from your previous bulk and take that information on board and be like, did I bulk too quick? Maybe I'd be a little bit more smarter this time and not put on excessive amounts of fat. This is the thing, you can't force feed muscle. Like and we've got to do a video on this as well, Tom, and I need to get the science in that of how much muscle can you physically put on based on your training age and stuff like that. And if you're too aggressive on the bulk, and therefore you're then too aggressive on the cut, you might just be going 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and you're just spinning your wheels. So my personal advice would be to have a slower lean bulk, because that's what people understand. I don't like calling it a lean bulk, I just like calling it putting on a sufficient amount of weight based on the factors, training age, muscle maturity, and stuff like that. Like how far are you from your genetic ceiling. Indicator people look at is your fat-free mass index, 25 being for a natty of a bull mark figure. Is if you're close to that, then you're closer to your muscle maturity age. So yeah, take that into account. So use that information you've got from the cut and the bulk, and maybe just be a little bit more slower with your rate of weight gain, and therefore you don't have to keep going back and forward as quick. I think you should, if you're bulking for 3 months and then you're cutting for 1 month aggressively, it's just like, But some people do it differently. They might bulk for 3 months, cut, bulk, free, like the same ratio. Always be looking at a higher ratio of being in a surplus if your overall goal is to put muscle on, and then do cuts when you need to, but just think it a longer period of time. Next question, please, Tom.
From Lumberjackson, do you need a fitness level 1 to do your online level 2 and 3 course? And if so, do you do level 1 as well?
Okay, we don't personally teach level 2, level 3 nationally recognised qualification because we don't agree with the standards, hence the whole reason why we set up the Shredded by Science Academy. However, we have teamed up with a training provider that do provide the level 2, level 3, and you get a small discount. In regards to level 1, the level 1 when I used to teach in the college many years ago, it was around, but even when, like, we're talking nearly 10 years ago when I started, the level 1 we only provided for like the first year. Most big health clubs or chain gyms are even asking for level 3 to be minimum now rather than level 2. So you don't need to do a level 1 to do a level 2 or level 3, and but you do need to have a level 2 before you can do level 3. So that's why most training providers will bundle up a level 2 and level 3 together. We don't actually teach the level 2, level 3 because it goes against our principles as a company. However, there are some advantages to it, as in you can get it quick, it's nationally recognised, it's a piece of paper. The disadvantages are that it is by far subpar to actually become a successful personal trainer in the fitness industry over a long period of time. So whenever people ask me what one I should do, I always say the cheapest one and the quickest one, then jump on the SBS Academy and get your real learning on.